Talking about microfinancing and savings and loans, we're staying with the banking sector, and we'll tell you the issue of why some microfinance companies were closed down, and then the confusion between what a microfinance company is and what a savings and loans company, because the public seem to lump the two together, describing all of them as microfinance companies. Now, the Ghana National Association, or the Ghana Association of Savings and Loans Companies, wants the central bank to consider permitting savings and loans companies to add bank to their name. Now, this, they say, will help them to help the public to differentiate between what a microfinance institution is and what a savings and loans company is. Let's listen to the chairman of the Association of Savings and Loans Companies. We'll come back to the studio and deal with the situation, the president of the Savings and Loans Companies.
Savings and loans companies have become the second tier of the three-tier banking system in Ghana, namely universal banks, savings and loans, and rural banks. The savings and loans institutions provide financial access to the self-employed, artisans and small-scale operators in the urban centers which cannot access loans from the commercial banks. As financial intermediaries, the institution controls 6.5% of total deposits in the country, which is about 3 billion cedis.
You need, let's say, 20,000 Ghana cedi, and you want to move from door to door looking for, let's say, 20 people to give you 1,000 each. You can imagine the hassle and the difficulty you will go through to be able to raise that kind of funds. So the savings and loans are there so that we will come out through various savings products to mobilize those funds from the surplus unit and be able to offer it to you.
According to the president of the Ghana Association of Savings and Loan Companies, Central Bank must consider changing their name to help them provide better services.
Rural banks and community banks have the name banks after their name, and they are only much smaller than the savings and loans because their capital requirement is only 1 million Ghana cedis, whereas savings and loan companies are 15 million. So the central bank must take a critical look about this and begin to differentiate the tiers that they gave us.
He noted that the public must not confuse them with microfinance institutions as they provide more services than microfinance institutions.
Savings and loans are unique in the sense that because of our capital base, we can operate at the lower levels and compete with the microfinance institutions and also deal with the banks up to a certain level because we can give enough loans to some of the institutions and some of our borrowers.
All right, now let's come to the studio because if you remember, when the DKM issue broke out, microfinance and savings and loans companies were lumped together as microfinance. And so a board member of the Ghana Association of Savings and Loans Companies, and then the man who led the research to find out why the public seemed to lump the two together is my guest tonight, Mr. Isaac Arthur. Welcome.
Thank you, Right.
So let's start from here. What is a microfinance company? What is a savings and loans company? You can explain to us by what microfinance can do, what savings and loans cannot do, what savings and loans can do, what microfinance cannot do.
Okay, Brian, thank you very much, and good evening to our cherished viewers. The question posed, when we talk about a savings and loans company, and you look at the license that is given to savings and loans company, it allows savings and loans company, just like the name suggests, to take deposits, to do loans, and then also to do investment. Now, quite apart from these, savings and loans companies are also able to undertake electronic activities, such as remittance businesses, such as offering ATMs to its customers to be able to access, funding. And again, savings and loans are able to have, when you look at the savings products that we have, they have a checking account system. That is what we call the current account system. So savings and loans are able to offer checks to its customers to be able to operate current accounts. Now let's come to the issue of microfinance. Microfinance, per the regulation and guidance, also are able to undertake, as the name suggests, micro services. So what they do is that micro savings, micro loans, and then micro investment. Now the difference here is this: if you look at the guidelines that regulate microfinance companies, that is Bank of Ghana notice number 2011 number 4, it says clearly that the microfinance company can take up to 5% of their stated capital from a simple depositor. Right. And their stated capital up until now used to be 100,000 Ghana cedi, but now it's 500,000 Ghana cedi.
So a single person cannot put in more than 5% of the stated capital of a microfinance company.
Exactly. So that is one of the distinctions, you know, between savings and in terms of the products that we do offer. That is one of the distinctions.
Now tell me, this particular distinction where a single person cannot go and deposit more than 5% of the stated capital of a microfinance company. How does it apply to a savings and loans company? Just share with us the difference.
Okay. All right. You look at the capital requirement of the savings and loans and that of the microfinance. The savings and loans are supposed to raise a capital of 15 million Ghana cedi. So you would realize that if you juxtapose that in terms of absolute numbers, if you do the numbers, that of the savings and loans is far higher as compared to that of
the so yours is savings and loans is 15 million.
15 million finance is 500,000.
500,000. Yes. And then an individual cannot deposit more than 5% of 500,000 cedis.
Yes.
And then with savings and loans, can an individual walk in and deposit any amount at all?
Yes, you can deposit any amount. And again,
even more than your stated capital?
Not necessarily, not even more than stated capital. But the point here is that the capital gives you that latitude to do more business as compared to that of the microfinance. So that is where the difference, you know, actually is. Just like if you compare the savings and loans to banks, because of the capital raised by a bank, which is 120 million cedis, gives them leverage to do more businesses as compared to the savings and loans.
So there are differences.
Exactly.
So a microfinance is not the same as a savings and loans company.
Not at all.
How am I able to distinguish the two that easily? And why is there confusion? And so the public is lumping the two of them together.
All right. Right. Thank you for the question. If you look at the savings and loans as a customer, how you can distinguish the two is that if you walk to any savings and loans or microfinance banking hall, you need to look out for the license which is put out there. The license and per the regulation, it requires savings and loans to have savings and loans by the name. Okay. Now, if you look at that of microfinance, it also requires microfinance to have microfinance by the name.
So you can have Bright Microfinance.
Exactly.
Or Bright Savings and Loans Company.
Exactly. So you would have that. That is one difference between the two. Again, if you look at the range of services offered by the two, which I did allude to earlier on, you realize that there are variations in the range of services. The savings and loan companies do more services as compared to the microfinance.
If I cannot read, if I cannot read, would it be that difficult for me to make a clear distinction?
Exactly. When you go in there, you find out, because the service is such that it is to be interpreted to you in a language, they are supposed to explain what they offer to you, for you to be able to appreciate and understand, you know, what you are in there to buy. Because obviously you cannot buy something that you do not really appreciate or understand what is actually useful. So language is not a barrier at all. When you walk in there, you should be able to understand. For example, if I walk into a microfinance company, for example, and I say that, okay, I'm a trader, and by virtue of my business, I may not always be able to come to the banking hall to withdraw. So I would want a current account. I want an account that will enable me to draw checks, you know, on the account. I mean, they should be able to explain to you that, no, you cannot get it over here, but you should go to this company which can, you know, do it for you. So it's easy, however form you look at it. And again, as I indicated, the capital requirement also is one of the main, you know, differences between the two. Let me quickly touch on this issue as well. If you look at the target market served by the two, we all serve virtually the same market, But then the microfinance companies are also customers of savings and loans companies. So you will find that a microfinance company does have an account with a savings and loan company as well. So we serve invariably the same target market, but then because of the capacity of savings and loans company, microfinances also do business by way of being clients of savings and loans companies.
The 70 companies that were closed down were all microfinance companies.
Yes, they were microfinance. But let me hasten to add that, right, you see, the issue here is not that all microfinances have problems or they are bad. No. There are guidelines for the business that we find ourselves in. And let me tell you, since 2015, which is last year, the registered microfinance institutions are 661. So there are a lot of microfinances in Ghana. Those are the registered ones. And for all you know, as it stands now, one cannot be so certain as to whether even the 70 were registered microfinances or not. So microfinances are equally doing good business, but the point is that there is the need for the explanation for the populace to understand that these are the variations. So if I need a service, I would have to go to this, company rather than that. It doesn't in any way denigrate any.
What was the impact of the closure of these companies and then the DKM issue on savings and loans companies? How impactful was it as far as your businesses are concerned?
It wasn't that impactful at all.
It didn't affect savings and loans companies
at all. It didn't affect savings and loan at all. But then the issue is this: savings and loan companies there are 27 savings and loans, but there are 24 of them that are members of the association, which is the GASAC. Now, these 24 members have branches all over the 10 regions of Ghana. We are looking at about 404 branches across the length and breadth of Ghana. So invariably, we do have some of the members who have branches at the Brong and Hafo, and to some extent, you would say that it impacted to the extent that some customers thought that all microfinances, all savings and loans are also microfinance, therefore they are having an issue. But if you look at it in the industrial wise, then there wasn't that, significant impact by way of a negative, publicity.
How do we deal with this problem of the public lumping the two together? How do we deal with it?
Yes. If you look at it, this arises based on two main issues. It has to do with the services offered and then also the name. I'll come to the names issue later. If you look at the services we offer, invariably you realize that we all offer the same service. But the point is that if the customer goes, I pray that the customer is able to interrogate more and find out the services that the various companies do offer. And as I did outline earlier, when you look into the various services that they offer, you clearly will be able to distinct. You look at the license that has been, displayed, and you'll be able to tell that, yes, this is a savings and loan, this is a microfinance. Again, the name, as I indicated, the name is an issue, and that is key. And that is the main problem that we think that as an association, we need to take a closer look at. Bank of Ghana needs to help the association by way of helping the industry also to look at. And the issue is this: if you pick the name savings and loan itself, it's a product. And if you pick microfinance, it's a product
offered by both microfinance and savings and loans companies.
And the name microfinance is equally a product, which is offered by savings and loans and microfinance as well. So that is where the confusion actually comes in. Because if you have, for example, if we sitting here, if I'm called Bright, you are called Bright, the likelihood that if we are called, we would all turn is very high. So there is that distinction that you are Bright Amfo and I'm Isaac Arthur. So it is clear if the name is mentioned who we are referring to. So the appeal here to the central bank is to take a closer look at the name and then see, instead of all of us having a product name, perhaps if one could be given a bank, because if you look at our stated capital, I think it would not be far-fetched if we are called a savings and loan bank or perhaps an SME bank. That will create some distinction and customers will be clear in their minds.
Ms. Arthur, I'm grateful for your time tonight. And thanks so much for joining us. He led the research into why the public lumps the two, microfinance and savings and loans together. It's also the board member of the Association of Savings and Loans Companies. And of course, it's a development story. We'll tell you more about that as they embark on a campaign to do more education on getting the public to differentiate between a microfinance and then a savings and loans.